Greco-Roman wrestling. Greco-Roman American English, Greco-Roman British English, classic wrestling Euro-English or French wrestling in Russia until 1948 is a style of wrestling that is practiced worldwide. Greco-Roman wrestling was included in the first modern Olympic Games in 1896 and has been in every edition of the Summer Olympics held since 1904. This style of wrestling forbids holds below the waist, which is the main feature that differentiates it from freestyle wrestling, the other form of wrestling contested at the Olympics. This restriction results in an emphasis on throws because a wrestler cannot use trips to bring an opponent to the ground or hook/grab the opponent's leg to avoid being thrown. Greco-Roman wrestling is one of several forms of amateur competitive wrestling practiced internationally. The other wrestling disciplines sanctioned by United World Wrestling are men's freestyle wrestling, women's freestyle wrestling, grappling submission wrestling, pankration, Alysh belt wrestling, Pahlavani wrestling, and beach wrestling. History. Weight classes. Currently, international Greco-Roman wrestling is divided into four main age categories: schoolboys, cadets, juniors, and seniors. Schoolboys, young men ages 14-15 or age 13 with a medical certificate and parental authorization wrestle in 10 weight classes ranging from 29 to 85 kg. Cadets, young men ages 16-17 or age 15 with a medical certificate and parental authorization wrestle in 10 weight classes ranging from 39. Juniors, young men ages 18 to 20 or age 17 with a medical certificate and parental authorization wrestle in 8 weight classes ranging from 46 to 120 kg. Seniors, men ages 20 and up wrestle in 7 weight classes ranging from 50 to 120 kg. For men, there is also a special category for some Greco-Roman competitions, veterans for men ages 35 and older, presumably featuring the same weight classes as seniors. Also, all of the men's age categories and weight classes can be applied to freestyle wrestling. Wrestlers after weigh-in may only wrestle in their own weight class. Wrestlers in the senior age category may wrestle up a weight class except for the heavyweight division, which starts at a weight more than 96 kg for the men. Different nations may have different weight classes and different age categories for their levels of Greco-Roman competition. Structure of the tournament. A typical international wrestling tournament takes place by direct elimination with an ideal number of wrestlers 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, etc. in each weight class and age category competing for placement. The competition in each weight class takes place in one day. The day before the wrestling in a scheduled weight class and age category takes place, all the applicable wrestlers are examined by a physician and weighed in. Each wrestler, after being weighed on the scale, then draws a token randomly that gives a certain number. If an ideal number is not reached to begin elimination rounds, a qualification round will take place to eliminate the excess number of wrestlers. For example, 22 wrestlers may weigh in over the ideal number of 16 wrestlers. The 6 wrestlers who drew the highest numbers after 16 and the 6 wrestlers who drew the 6 numbers immediately before 17 would then wrestle in 6 matches in the qualification round. The winners of those matches would then go on to the elimination round. In the elimination round, the ideal number of wrestlers then pair off and compete in matches until 2 victors emerge, who will compete in the finals for first and second place. All of the wrestlers who lost to the 2 finals then have the chance to wrestle in a repechage round. The repechage round begins with the wrestlers who lost to the 2 finalists at the lowest level of competition in the elimination round. The matches are paired off by the wrestlers who lost to one finalist and the wrestlers who lost to the other. The 2 wrestlers who win after every level of competition are the victors of the repechage round. In the finals, the 2 victors of the elimination round compete for first and second place. In all rounds of the tournament, the wrestlers compete in matches paired off in the order of the numbers they drew after the weigh-in. After the finals match, the awards ceremony will take place. The first place and second place wrestlers will receive a gold and silver medal, respectively. At the FILA World Championships, the first-place wrestler will receive the World Championship belt. The two repechage round winners will each be awarded third place with a bronze medal. The two wrestlers who lost in the finals for the third place are awarded fifth place. From seventh place down, the wrestlers are ranked according to the classification points earned for their victories or losses. If there is a tie among wrestlers for classification points, the ranking is determined in this order from the highest to the lowest: most victories earned by fall, most matches won by technical superiority, most periods won by technical superiority, most technical points scored in the tournament, least technical points scored in the tournament. Wrestlers who remained tied after that will be awarded placements ex aequo. Wrestlers classified from the 5th to the 10th place will receive a special diploma. The wrestling tournaments in the Olympic Games and the Senior and Junior World Championships are designed to take place over 3 days on 3 mats. Layout of the mat. The match takes place on a thick rubber circular mat that is shock absorbing to ensure safety. For the Olympic Games, all World Championships and World Cups, the mat has to be new. The main wrestling area has a 9-meter diameter and is surrounded by a 1.5-meter border of the same thickness known as the protection area. Inside the 9-meter in diameter circle is a red band of 1 meter in width that is on the outer edge of the circle and is known as the red zone. The red zone is used to help indicate passivity on the part of a wrestler. Thus, it is also known as the passivity zone. Inside the red zone is the central wrestling area, which is 7 meters in diameter. In the middle of the central wrestling area is the central circle, which is 1 meter in diameter. The central circle is surrounded by a band 10 centimeters wide and is divided in half by a red line 8 centimeters in width. The diagonally opposite corners of the mat are marked with the wrestlers' colors, red and blue. For competition in the Olympic Games, the World Championships, and the Continental Championships, the mat is installed on a platform no greater than 1.1 meters in height. If the mat lies on a podium and the protection margin covering and free space around the mat does not reach 2 meters, then the sides of the podium are covered with 45-degree inclined panels. In all cases, the color of the protection area is different from the color of the mat. Equipment. A singlet is a one-piece wrestling garment made of spandex that should provide a tight and comfortable fit for the wrestler. It is made from nylon or lycra and prevents an opponent from using anything on the wrestler as leverage. One wrestler usually competes in a red singlet and the other in a blue singlet. A special pair of shoes is worn by the wrestler to increase his mobility and flexibility. Wrestling shoes are light and flexible in order to provide maximum comfort and movement. Usually made with rubber soles, they help give the wrestler's feet a better grip on the mat. A handkerchief, also called a blood rag, is carried in the singlet. In the event of bleeding, the wrestler will remove the cloth from his singlet and attempt to stop the bleeding or clean up any bodily fluids that may have gotten onto the mat. Headgear, equipment worn around the ears to protect the wrestler, is optional in Greco-Roman. Headgear is omitted at the participant's own risk, as there is the potential to develop cauliflower ear. The match, 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 match. A match is a competition between two individual wrestlers of the same weight class. In Greco-Roman wrestling, a jury or team of 3 officials, referees, is used. The referee controls the action in the center, blowing the whistle to start and stop the action, and supervises the scoring of holds and infractions. The judge sits at the side of the mat, keeps score, and occasionally gives his approval when needed by the referee for various decisions. The mat chairman sits at the scoring table, keeps time, is responsible for declaring technical superiority, and supervises the work of the referee and judge. To call a fall, 2 of the 3 officials must agree, usually the referee and either the judge or the mat chairman. Period format. In Greco-Roman and freestyle, the format is now 2 3-minute halves. Before each match, each wrestler's name is called, and the wrestler takes his place at the corner of the mat assigned to his color. The referee then calls them to his side at the center of the mat, shakes hands with them, inspects their apparel, and checks for any perspiration, oily or greasy substances, and any other infractions. The two wrestlers then greet each other, shake hands, and the referee blows his whistle to start the period. A wrestler wins the match when he has won 2 out of 3 periods. For example, if one competitor were to win the first period 1-0 and the second period 1-0, the match would be over. However, if the other competitor were to win the second period, then a third and deciding period would result. Only a fall, injury, default, or disqualification terminates the match. All other modes of victory result only in period termination. One side effect of this format is that it is possible for the losing wrestler to outscore the winner. For example, periods may be scored 3-2, 0-4, 1-0, leading to a total score of 4-6, but a win for the wrestler scoring fewer points. Each Greco-Roman period is broken up into a phase for wrestling from the neutral position and a maximum of 2 parterre ground wrestling phases. During the wrestling phase from the neutral position, both wrestlers compete for takedowns and points for 60 seconds as usual. At the end of the first minute, in general, the wrestler who has scored the most points will receive the advantage in an Olympic lift from an open parterre position on the other wrestler. This position is known as the clinch. If neither wrestler at this point has any points, the referee will toss a colored disc with a red-colored side and a blue-colored side. The wrestler who won the colored disc toss will receive the advantage in the Olympic lift. The wrestler who lost the colored disc toss then places his hands and knees in the center circle, with the hands and knees at least 20 centimeters apart and the distance between the hands a maximum of 30 centimeters. The arms of that wrestler would be stretched out, the feet would not be crossed, and the thighs would be stretched out, forming a 90-degree angle with the mat. The wrestler who won the colored disc toss would then be allowed to step beside the wrestler on the bottom, not touching him with his legs. If the wrestler who won the colored disc toss wished, he could place one knee on the mat. The top wrestler would then wrap his hands and arms around the bottom wrestler's waist and execute the Olympic lift called an upside-down belt hold at the beginning of the first 30 seconds. The bottom wrestler could then attempt to defend himself. At the end of first 30 seconds, the clinch position is reversed with the other wrestler receiving the Olympic lift and the period continuing for the remaining 30 seconds. The period is decided by who accumulated the most points during both standing and ground phases. During each ground phase, if the top wrestler cannot score, the other wrestler is awarded 1 point. In the case of no scoring moves being executed during either ground phase, the score will be 1-1, and in this case generally the wrestler to score last will be awarded the period. When the period or match has concluded, the referee stands at the center of the mat facing the officials' table. Both wrestlers then come, shake hands, and stand on either side of the referee to await the decision. The referee then proclaims the winner by raising the winner's hand. At the end of the match, each wrestler then shakes hands with the referee and returns to shake hands with his opponent's coach. Match scoring. In Greco-Roman wrestling, as well as in freestyle wrestling, points are awarded mostly on the basis of explosive action and risk. For example, when one wrestler performs a grand amplitude throw that brings his opponent into the danger position, he is awarded the greatest number of points that can be scored in one instance. Also, a wrestler who takes the risk to briefly roll on the mat with his shoulders in contact with the mat could give a certain number of points to his opponent. Scoring can be accomplished in the following ways. Takedown 2 to 5 points. A wrestler is awarded points for a takedown when the wrestler gains control over his opponent on the mat from a neutral position when the wrestler is on his feet. At least 3 points of contact have to be controlled on the mat, e.g. 2 arms and 1 knee, 2 knees and 1 arm, or the head, or 2 arms and the head. 5 points are awarded for a takedown brought about by a throw of grand amplitude, a throw in which a wrestler brings his opponent off of the mat and controls him so that his feet go directly above his head, either from the standing or par. 4 points are generally awarded for a takedown brought about by a grand amplitude throw that does not bring his opponent in a direct and immediate danger position, or for a takedown in which a wrestler's opponent is taken from his feet. From his feet. The body, the villain, and, 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 and. 2 points are awarded for a takedown brought about by a wrestler taking his opponent from his feet to his stomach or side such that his back or shoulders are not exposed to the mat. Reversal 1 point. A wrestler is awarded 1 point for a reversal when the wrestler gains control over his opponent from a defensive position, when the wrestler is being controlled by his opponent. Exposure, also called the danger position, 2 or 3 points. A wrestler is awarded points for exposure when the wrestler exposes his opponent's back. Points for exposure are also awarded if a wrestler's back is to the mat but the wrestler is not pinned. Criteria for exposure or the danger position is met when 1. A wrestler's opponent is in a bridge position to avoid being pinned. 2. A wrestler's opponent is on one or both elbows with his back to the mat and avoids getting pinned. 3. A wrestler holds one of his opponent's shoulders to the mat and the other shoulder at an acute angle less than 90 degrees. 4. A wrestler's opponent is in an instantaneous fall position where both of his shoulders are on the mat for less than 1 second. Or 5. The wrestler's opponent rolls on his shoulders. A wrestler in the danger position allows his opponent to score 2 points. An additional hold down point may be earned by maintaining the exposure continuously for 5 seconds. Penalty 1 or 2 points. Under the 2004-2005 changes to the international styles, a wrestler whose opponent takes an injury timeout receives 1 point unless the injured wrestler is bleeding. Other infractions, e.g., fleeing a hold or the mat, striking the opponent, acting with brutality or intent to injure, and using illegal holds are penalized by an award of either 1 or 2 points, a caution, and a choice of position to the opponent. Out of bounds 1 point. Whenever a wrestler places his foot in the protection area, the match is stopped, and 1 point is awarded to his opponent. Classification points are also awarded in an international wrestling tournament, which give most points to the winner and, in some cases, 1 point to the loser depending on the outcome of the match and how the victory was attained. For example, a victory by fall would give the winner 5 classification points and the loser no points, while a match won by technical superiority with the loser scoring technical points would award 3 points to the winner and 1 point to loser. The full determinations for scoring are found in the UWW International Wrestling Rules. Victory conditions. A match can be won in the following ways. Win by fall. The objective of the wrestling match is to attain victory by what is known as the fall. A fall, also known as a pin, occurs when one wrestler holds both of his opponent's shoulders on the mat simultaneously. In Greco-Roman and freestyle wrestling, the 2 shoulders of the defensive wrestler must be held long enough for the referee to observe the total control of the fall, usually ranging from 1/2 second. Then either the judge or the mat chairman concurs with the referee that a fall is made. If the referee does not indicate a fall, and the fall is valid, the judge and the mat chairman can concur together and announce the fall. A fall ends the match entirely regardless of when it occurs. In the United States, for the kids freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling division wrestlers ages 8 to 14 in competitions sponsored by USA Wrestling, it is specified that a fall must be held for 2 seconds. Win by technical superiority, also called technical fall. If a fall is not secured to end the match, a wrestler can win a period simply by points. If one wrestler gains an 8-point lead over his opponent at any break in continuous action, he is declared the winner of the match by technical superiority. Win by decision. If neither wrestler achieves either a fall or technical superiority, the wrestler who scored more points during the match is declared the winner. If the score is tied, the winner is determined by certain criteria. First, the number of cautions given to each wrestler for penalties. Next, the value of points gained, that is, whether a wrestler gained points based on a 2, 4, or 5-point move. And finally, the last scored technical point are taken into account to determine the winner. Generally, the wrestler who scored the last technical point will be awarded the period. Win by default: if one wrestler is unable to continue participating for any reason, or fails to show up on the mat after his name was called 3 times before the match begins, his opponent is declared the winner of the match by default, forfeit, or withdrawal, as the case may be. Win by injury: if one wrestler is injured and unable to continue, the other wrestler is declared the winner. This is also referred to as a medical forfeit or injury default. The term also encompasses situations where wrestlers become ill, take too many injury timeouts, or bleed uncontrollably. In the event a wrestler is injured by his opponent's illegal maneuver and cannot continue, the wrestler at fault is disqualified. Win by disqualification: if a wrestler is assessed 3 cautions for breaking the rules, he is disqualified. Under other circumstances, such as flagrant brutality or gross disrespect for officials, the match will be ended immediately and the offending wrestler ejected from the tournament. Team scoring in tournaments. In an international wrestling tournament, teams enter 1 wrestler at each weight class and score points based on the individual performances. For example, if a wrestler at the 60 kg weight class finishes in first place, then his team will receive 10 points. If he were to finish in 10th place, then the team would only receive 1. At the end of the tournament, each team's score is tallied, and the teams are then placed first, second, third, etc. Team competition. A team competition, or dual meet, is a meeting between typically 2 teams in which individual wrestlers at a given weight class compete against each other. A team receives 1 point for each victory in a weight class regardless of the outcome. The team that scores the most points at the end of the matches wins the team competition. If there are 2 sets of competitions, with one team winning the home competition and one winning the away competition, a third competition may take place to determine the winner for ranking purposes, or the ranking may take place by assessing in order: 1, the most victories by adding the points of the 2 matches; 2, the most points by fall, default, forfeit, or disqualification; 3, the most matches won by technical superiority; 4, the most periods won by technical superiority; 5, the most technical points won in all the competition; 6, the least technical points won in all the competition. This works similarly when more than 2 teams are involved in this predicament. Notable practitioners: Olympic and world champions, mixed martial arts, professional wrestling.